We are very happy to be here and appreciate the opportunity to share our department's equity practices with all of you. I'll start with the introductions. My name is Sevgül Topkarasarsu. I'm the manager of community services, and Vina Baines is quality improvement coordinator with our department. I'll just talk a little bit about community services. Community services develops and delivers services that support diverse clientele in achieving their goals in areas of settlement, employment, skills development, and language. We serve newcomers, youth, children, adults who are looking for employment or looking for opportunities to develop their skills, whether it is digital skills or essential skills such as math or writing. We provide services in the community to all, not only TDSB, so we try and try to reach beyond the schools to support our community. Every year, we serve around 20,000 clients and learners. Currently, we have 10 programs running out of 48 locations, and currently we have 380 staff members. All of our programs are funded externally by federal and provincial governments. And all right, let's talk about our equity practices. We have 3 practices that I'm going to talk about: equity committee, equity newsletter, and equity leadership competencies training. I'll start a little bit with background information on how we decided to develop these practices. In 2016, we developed community services strategic plan for 2017-2020. We did research, environmental scan, and held series of consultations with all stakeholders. Based on these consultations, we defined our guiding principles as service excellence, collaboration, and innovation. And we define our guiding values as respect, inclusiveness and diversity, openness and transparency, and integrity. And one of our strategic directives was enhancing staff experience by providing opportunities to get involved and contributed. We have been using committee work as one of the staff engagement tools. Each year, we form a different committee and invite all staff to participate. One year we had innovation committee, another year we had service coordination committee. With the introduction of Service Excellence Initiative in 2018 and board's priority in establishing equity as the foundation of service excellence, we have started to have a serious conversation about equity. And the idea of equity committee came from my manager during his conversation with a staff member. And so in the fall of 2019, we decided to have an equity committee as part of our committee work that year. So I invited all staff to be part of equity, to collect the interest. And there are so many people interested in being part of it. So we start with 10 members. In the first year, just the highlights of our committee work. In the first year, a lot of work actually went into defining our role, what we are trying to do, priorities, and the one concrete idea that came out of that committee work was offering some training to all staff members, and we decided to offer this: creating inclusive workplaces, managing our unconscious biases training, and we offered that to all staff, all 380 staff. At the end of the first year, we decided to have the equity committee, defining committee, as a standing committee. So last year, we focused on creating a more formal process for equity committee. Now that was a standing committee, so we created equity committee charter, equity committee code of conduct. We decided as a committee to collect staff input on equity and equitable workplace. Every year we do staff satisfaction survey. We just included this section in the staff satisfaction survey. And the idea of Equity Committee newsletter came from the committee members, again, as a way of communicating with all team, community services staff team. And the idea of equity leadership competencies training, again, came from the committee based on staff input that we collected on equity in the last in 2020 staff satisfaction survey. And this year, we decided to open our meetings to all community services staff. We almost finalized equity checklists for different program areas and equity resources section for staff manuals. Next slide, please. Just to give you a little bit more information on the newsletter, and this is our first issue, March 2021. That's what it looked like. It was just sharing some resources, some good videos and articles, and then we include a section on like why we are doing this, what we want to achieve. The next slide, please. So we, as a committee, equity committee, we wanted to come up with a newsletter and share this newsletter as a way of connecting with all community services staff and informing them of what equity committee does, sharing information and resources on issues related to equity, diversity, and inclusion with all community services staff, making equity accessible to all, and encouraging all community services staff to implement and share equity best practices and new equity initiatives. And you can see they are current issue, latest issue. We decided to dedicate this issue to truth and reconciliation because we have been hearing from our staff that sometimes it's difficult, we care, we want to do something, but we don't know where to start. So we provided some resources with everyone who are interested in doing something to support reconciliation, some practical steps they can take to support reconciliation, such as attending Indigenous events, donating, volunteering, reading Indigenous literature, and attending cultural events, etc. So, and the last equity practice I just want to talk about is the equity leadership competencies training. And this training was developed to support all supervisors and equip them with tools and resources in creating an equitable environment for all. The idea came from staff satisfaction survey itself. And we contacted equity department and worked very closely to tailor the training based on our unique needs. And we included case studies in the training, and those case studies came from actual staff feedback. The training was delivered in April and May of 2021 over 3 sessions. And next one is the content of the training. We talk about basics of equity, clarifying key concepts. And then we reviewed the equity leadership competencies. We ask ourselves, like, which competencies are we already doing? Which competencies do we find challenging? What does that look like? And then we reviewed case studies. And the last part was development of action plans. Teams came together and talk about and define areas for improvement and come up with some action items, and still work going on. We will meet in a couple of months actually to review those action plans and see where we are as different teams and as community services. So the last slide, challenges, of course, and the sustainment practices, what worked, what didn't work. So the challenges, of course, equity can be a daunting task and can be an intimidating concept. We had a lot of discussions about where to start. And then equity, given how important it is difficult to kind of prioritize, and how, you know, age-old question, how to prioritize when everything is important. And then defining what we can and can't do in terms of newsletter and the equity committee. You know, we have certain limitations because we are funded by government. and we have our contracts, and we are expected to reach our targets or certain clientele. And then, of course, we are part of school board, and we have policies and procedures. One idea was that, equity making suggestions in terms of hiring practices. Can we do that? Or because we have employee services, we have already policies in place. This is just an example. We had a lot of discussion and spent a lot of time discussing whether we are, authorized, or we can actually do that or not. And I'm not saying that we overcame all these challenges and resolve all the issues. No, these are the discussions that we are constantly having, and they are still there, and just we keep discussing those questions. What works? We find out that it is important to collect staff client feedback, and it's important to create tools for collecting those staff client feedback, because all these ideas came from staff. And having a formal process helps, and to create a consistency, first of all, and transparency. We creating action items and follow-ups important, not having a general discussions, but turning things into actionable items. That I find it's very important and helpful. And of course, sharing successes to increase buy-in. If staff see that their ideas, their input, comments are turning into actions, they will be more encouraged to share their ideas. And the more ideas coming together, because all these ideas really coming from staff. And thank you. That's the end of my presentation. And now we can take questions.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Please.
So you mentioned about equity committee. Is that members of your team, or are you also including some of the people, like you mentioned there, you have 20,000 clients, like are you bringing them in, or is just the team?
This is just the team, staff members.
Just the staff members. And how many members in that committee?
Right now, we have 11 members. We define that the members will be 10 to 12. Maximum number we define as 12. So right now, this year, we have 11 members.
And they choose to be part of the committee, or like how do we select people?
We have an application form. So initially, every member is selected for 2 years and serve in the committee for 2 years. So in the first year, it was just I send an email who is interested, and then we kind of selected the members. The second year, I developed an application form, and they write a little piece why they are interested in this work. And then we also ask like references, because it does require some work and volunteer work. So whoever is interested, they actually do an application, and then we look at the application.
Thank you.
We had a question from the chat from Rosemary. She's asking, how do members find time to meet? So what's the time commitment? That's right.
It's important to say that it is paid time for staff. We are not asking to meet them after hours. So all of our meetings are scheduled 3 to 5 to accommodate instructors, for example. It's on paid time. And we only meet 4 times a year. And then sometimes we form subcommittees. For example, for newsletter, we created newsletter subcommittee, and people volunteered for that. And they did, sometimes we connect through emails, but some other practices, emails and short phone conversations, but officially we only meet 4 times a year, 8 hours meeting time a year.
And I think that's it, because we're going to go back to the main.
Oh, time flies.
Yeah,
And
thank you, everybody.
To connect with us. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to share our resources.
Okay, thank you.